The following is a Spirit Street production.
Man, what a weekend. College football officially back. Big 12, we saw some good performances. We saw some okay performances. We saw some bad performances. We're going to cover all of that today and a little bit more. This is the Big 12 Insiders Recap Show.
Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show, presented by Synergy Financial Partners. Now let's go to booming North Texas, home of Studio 73. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is your man, Big B, Brien Hanley. Welcome back to Big 12 Insiders. College football is back, ladies and gentlemen. It is back. We saw some good stuff out of the Big 12. We saw some okay stuff, and we saw some bad stuff. You know, today, this is the recap show. We're going to cover everything that we saw within the Big 12 conference. Look, I'm just excited because college football finally kicked off. We can get rid of all the talk about the transfer portal and NIL and conference realignment. You know what? All of that nonsense goes out the window because they kicked the football off, and it's time to get into it. So let's kind of go over some of the things that we saw. Look, first, on the Thursday night games. The first three, or there were 4 games on Thursday night. 3 of them were blowouts. Teams, they did exactly what they wanted to do. First, we'll start off Utah against Southern Utah, 49-0. Look, Utah did exactly what they were supposed to do. And just like the rest of the teams that I'm going to go over in this 3-team list anyway, they blew out teams that they were supposed to blow out. Utah looked good. Cam Rising looked sharp coming back. Utah, they're hitting – I'm not saying they're hitting on all cylinders. This is the first game of the year. But for the first game, getting out those jitters, Cam Rising, even though he's played forever, you know, missing a season, you can have some jitters coming back, man. Some doubt might creep in your mind a little bit. Can you still get this done? I think that was out the first drive of the football game. Utah dominated this football game against Southern Utah. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. UCF against New Hampshire, that one 57-3. UCF is a player, people. They're going to be a player within this conference. Now, again, it's New Hampshire. I don't want people to get excited. But again, they did what they were supposed to do. I mean, they went out and smacked them around, looked good in doing so. Got off to a little bit shaky start, KJ Jefferson throwing the football. But, again, jitters. First game out, first time playing for UCF. I mean, everybody's human. Everybody is human, man. So you get that out of the way. You get hit a couple of times, and then Katie parted the door. They just blew the doors off of them. KU doing the same thing. Look, I'll be honest. I've been watching football and paying attention where I understood football for the better part of 40 years now. And I had no idea who Lindenwood was. I still don't. But whatever. KU, again, smacked them around a little bit. Again, early game jitters, throwing the football, Jalen Daniels a little bit, but KU got it rolling and then did exactly what they were supposed to do. That was 48-3. Now, the big game on Thursday that everybody was talking about, Colorado against North Dakota State. And a lot of people are saying that North Dakota State, they're not the same team that they were, previously. They look pretty good to me. And again, I'm not here to pat them on the back or I'm just telling you what I saw. They look pretty good to me. Now, week in and week out, are they going to be able to compete at the Big 12 level? No. Are they going to ever – if they were in the Big 12, would they compete for a conference championship? Absolutely not. That's not happening. You put them in a group of 5, maybe every once in a while they're going to compete to win those titles. I believe that to be the case, and they would have winning records. They are never going to have a winning record in the Big 12 if North Dakota State was here. I don't believe that. Having said all of that, Colorado, there was some good, but there was a lot of mediocre and there was a lot of bad. I don't want to bash them too much. I think the internet has kind of done that for us. But you know what you saw. It didn't look any different. Now, we do have to give Colorado some grace. They are allowed to get better. They are allowed to have first game jitters. They are allowed to not look good the first game of the year and allow coaching to take over and guys work hard and practice to get better. We have to allow for that to happen. We can't just say, well, the first game they stunk and that's the way it's going to be. Well, if everybody else can get better, Shouldn't we allow Colorado to get better? Now, having said that, we saw Colorado last year. They did not get better. So hopefully some things change. Coach Promise put some things in place where they can get better. But we know what we saw. They couldn't run the football. Just absolutely couldn't run it. And you saw it at the end of the game where literally they could have ended the football game by just running the football, and then they decide to throw it on first down. Absolutely unbelievable. Come on, Coach Prime. You got to be better at time management. And don't give us that excuse about seeing one-on-one coverage, because guess what? You didn't complete the pass. So it just looks stupid. I mean, just call it what it is. You're honest. If you're going to be honest, then be honest. That's all I'm saying. But they couldn't run the football. They didn't stop the run. Somebody wanted to argue with me online and said that Colorado stopped the run. Well, they stopped everybody but the quarterback. Excuse me, the last time I checked, the quarterback's allowed to run the football, and Colorado couldn't stop the quarterback from running the football all night. And it's only going to get worse because they're only going to face better athletes, number one, at the quarterback position, and teams that can run the football. So it's only going to get worse. They got to try to shore that thing up, man. But the thing to me that was the most telling is that their pass rush, they are allergic to pass rushing. They are literally allergic to rushing the passer. And you saw it. North Dakota State quarterback had all day to throw the football. And the sacks that they did get, they're having to bring, 5 and 6 guys on pressure. I'm like, you can't get off one-on-one blocks against North Dakota State? If you can't do that, what are you going to do, number one, next week at Nebraska? But 2, within the conference. They just got to be better. They got to get back. Get back in the lab, look at what you did, and say that's just not going to be good enough. It's not going to be good enough. But they did win the football game, and at the end of the day, that's what matters, 31-26. Moving on to Friday. Look, I think this is a bigger win than what people are giving it credit for. I know Stanford has been down the last couple of seasons. I think Stanford is a better football team. Yes, they're playing in the ACC, which just sounds absurd to say. But TCU going on the road and winning that game against Stanford. I think Stanford's better. I think TCU did a good job of winning the game. They didn't play their best football. They did not. But they did go and win the football game on the road against a Power 5 team. It's a good win for TCU. It's a good win for them. I'm not saying that Stanford's going to end up winning 8-9 games or anything like that. I just believe that they're a little bit better than what people think, because a lot of people think that Stanford's going to win 3 games. They're going to win more than 3 games this year. That to me is going to happen. So that's a good win for TCU. Getting into the Saturday games. Okay. So let's just break all of these down. Look, West Virginia, it looks like I oversold and I undersold Penn State. Maybe it's a little bit more of the latter. I undersold Penn State. This game, it wasn't close. I mean, 34-12. And let's just be honest about what we saw, people. It wasn't a great football game from a West Virginia standpoint. They have to be better. Penn State was the better team. They were the more physical team. It just did not look good. Now, that doesn't mean that West Virginia is a flop, that they're not going to win any games, or they're going to have a losing record. I'm not saying any of that, because you all know me. I'm a West Virginia believer this year. But it's got to be better than what we saw on Saturday. Let's just be honest. Now, Penn State can do that to you. Again, I apologize. I undersold Penn State. But looking at it, they didn't look – West Virginia just didn't look like they moved the ball, but they couldn't score. And it doesn't matter if you move the ball if you can't score. None of that matters. And that's the thing. They couldn't get into a rhythm. Don't give me the excuse about a weather delay, that Penn State was the superior team before the weather delay happened. Let's stop the nonsense. And it's okay to say. It's okay to say West Virginia just got to go back to the drawing board. That's all. Nothing. I mean, and again, Penn State might be on that level. I mean, and if Penn State is on that level, then West Virginia, you have nothing to be ashamed about. Nothing at all. But you were outclassed on Saturday. We can say that. We can say that. Moving on. Next 2 games, look, Oklahoma State beating South Dakota State. South Dakota State is the best FCS team in the country, have been for the last 2 seasons. They won national championships, and they played well. Again, same with North Dakota State. if they're in the Big 12 conference, they're not ever competing to win the Big 12 conference. If they had to do that on a weekly basis, could they compete? They could win a couple of games, but they're not competing for anything. They're not. But you put them in a lower conference like the American, yes, they absolutely could compete for winning records. Every once in a while, they could challenge for a conference title or something of that nature. But in the Big 12, they're not able to compete. Oklahoma State, I'll be honest, they went through the motions. They didn't show a whole lot. They did what they were supposed to do, 44-20. K-State, the same thing with UT Martin. They're not as good as a North Dakota State or South Dakota State. And Avery Johnson in his debut, I think it may have been a little bit of jitters, had a terrible interception. But again, K-State didn't show a lot. I watched the game. They basically ran 3 different run plays. That's all they did. And they ran 2 route concepts. That was it. I mean, they didn't show anything. Oklahoma State, I watched that one too. They didn't show anything either. It was just basic football, just going out and winning. And again, that's not try to disrespect the opponents that they were playing. It's just, hey, we should be able to beat these guys just doing basic stuff without having to show the world what we can do. Both of them were able to do that. So we're going to take a quick break, and we will come back. We will break down the rest of these games for you. We'll be right back, people.
Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
All right, welcome back to Big 12 Insiders again. This is your man, Big B, Brien Hanley, breaking down what we saw from the Big 12 this weekend. So let's next game, Arizona and New Mexico. Now, look, let's just be honest. Arizona's offense, phenomenal. Anytime you score 61 points, I don't give a damn who you're playing against. That's good offense. Fafita threw for, 433. McMillan, 304. I mean, Lord have mercy. I mean, those are numbers. It's just crazy numbers. Heck, they had a running back, Conley, 90 on 10 carries. Another one, Crosley Merritt, had 106 on 13 carries. I mean, Arizona was moving that football up and down the field. But let's be honest. Did we think that they were not going to? I mean, again, we're not trying to disrespect the teams or anything like that. But New Mexico lost to Montana State the week before. And Montana State is FCS. And New Mexico got beat. But Arizona turned around and gave up 39 points to New Mexico. 24 of those points were before halftime. So let's not say, well, they gave up 39, but it was mop-up time. And no, it wasn't. They gave up 24 of those points before halftime, and the game was close. Down the third quarter, Arizona broke the game wide open. I understand that. But at halftime, they hadn't done that. Not even a little bit. They got to play better defense than this. And again, they could have been running a lot. I watched a little bit of this game. Basic concepts on defense, that's fine. But you can have better athletes than New Mexico. 39 points is too many. Okay? Let's just say 39 points is too many. If you're going to give up 39 points to New Mexico, or if you even want to say when the game was close, if you're going to give up 24 points at the half to New Mexico, you're finishing middle of the tier of the Big 12. So I think Arizona's got to get it cleaned up. Again, first game jitters, new conference, new coach, a lot of new stuff, new system. All of that is fine. But at the bottom line is they got to clean up the defense. But the offense, we could talk about that all day. But again, I don't think anybody that knows anything about football, Arizona, Big 12, whatever the case, didn't think they would be able to put up those kind of numbers. So good win for Arizona there. Cincinnati over Townsend. Now, UC fans have been mad at me for the better part of 2 months. I said their stadium wasn't great. They got mad at me. I picked them last in the division. They're mad at me. I did say that UC fans are very knowledgeable about football because they are. They know exactly what they're talking about when it comes to football. They don't always have to agree with what's going on, but that doesn't mean they don't know. Win 38-20 over Townsend. I mean, it wasn't great, but it's a good win, because, again, they could have lost. So it's a good win for them. I will go out and say this, UC fans, I apologize. You are not the worst team in the conference, not by a long shot either. You're not even close to the worst team in the conference at this point. So again, I apologize. Forgive me for saying that. Forgive me. Power rankings come out tomorrow, and you guys will be able to see it. I can say this, spoiler alert, there's no chance that Cincinnati is going to be the 16th team in the Big 12 conference with the power rankings tomorrow. No chance. And the reason why is because the University of Houston is awful. They get beat. They didn't get beat. They got embarrassed by UNLV at home, 27-7. Willie Fritz has got his hands full. He's got his hands full. He's already got to make a quarterback change. You know your season's in trouble when after week 1 at home, you have to make a quarterback change. And he did. And it looks like they probably are going to have a quarterback competition going into week 2. That's how bad it was for Houston. They got out physical. They got out athletic. Now, UNLV is a pretty good football team. People would raving them. First of all, I think there was a ton of people, myself included, that picked UNLV to beat Houston, but we didn't think it was going to look like this. I thought it would be a closer game. UNLV just smacked them around on all fronts. Willie Fritz has got his hands full. He's got his hands full. He's got to get down and start recruiting more guys from the Houston area, just tap into that rich talent pool of high school kids, get some transfer kids. But he's going to have to flip that roster, flip what they're doing, because it did not look good. It did not look good. But give UNLV credit. A lot of people said they were going to be a good football team. Barry Odom is the coach, former Missouri coach, former Missouri player, been around the block a few times, and they literally smacked around Houston. Iowa State against North Dakota. Look, people are going to look at this, the 21-3, and think, man, Iowa State can't score. They can't move the football. And maybe a little bit of that's true. Again, another game where Iowa State, basic concepts, first game of the year. But North Dakota ran the football all day long. I mean, they had the ball for 15 more minutes than Iowa State. So any team that's going to hold the ball for that much longer than you are, yeah, I mean, they ran about 42 times, and it wasn't for 1 yard a carry. So I would say Iowa State probably needs to do a better job of getting off the field. Again, they're running basic stuff on defense, but at some point, you just have to say, okay, enough's enough. We're not going to just continuously let you run the ball, but I think that's a little bit more of how indicative the score was, 21-3. Although Iowa State scored a touchdown in the fourth, I get it. Basic game, but I think if North Dakota was a conference game, you'd have seen Iowa State run a lot more stuff to stop the run, not letting somebody possess the ball for 15 more minutes than they did. Watch out for Iowa State. Iowa State's a good football team. They're a good football team. Baylor fans were all over me. I said, watch out for Tarleton. I never even said that Tarleton State was going to beat Baylor. I never said it. All I said it was the game could be tricky. Apparently Baylor heard that. This game was not tricky from the opening kickoff, 45-3, a blowout. Daquan Finn, I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure. What was it? 192 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 2 interceptions. I'm just not sure yet. They ran the ball great, which you would expect they could do over an FCS opponent. But Baylor's got talent. There's no question that Baylor has talent. It was just a matter of could they put it together? And maybe they can. Maybe this is the start of that. Maybe Baylor has figured out. I said it last week, is that Baylor's one of those teams that could just say, you know what? Screw it all. If everybody thinks we're going to be bad, we're just going to play extremely loose, go out there and cut it loose and go see what happens. Well, if week 1 is any indication, then I think Baylor may have a little bit of something. But again, I'm not sure how good Tarleton State is. Again, Baylor fans, I apologize. I never said you were going to lose the game. All I said was that it could be tricky, but it was not tricky. This one was not tricky. BYU over Southern Illinois, good win. It looks like BYU's found their quarterback. He throws for 348. Good first game. Southern Illinois, I'm not sure how much they have, but again, you just want to get out there and go win. Go run your stuff. Go be the dominant football team. BYU fans, this is something that you can hang your hat on. I get it, FCS opponent, but again, a lot of people picked you last in the Big 12 conference. Big 12 insiders, your man Big B did not do that, but a lot of people picked you last. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Again, this was just a game. Get out there, get your feet wet. I like what I saw. I saw a little bit of this game. We'll see. We'll see. They were just so much better than Southern Illinois on all aspects. We'll see next week. Arizona State, Lord have mercy. This one when I got completely wrong. I thought, oh man, Wyoming's coming in there to win. This is what they did to Texas Tech last year, even though the game was in Laramie. Arizona State said absolutely not. Blows out Wyoming. Game wasn't close. More physical. We may have to pay attention to Arizona State. We might have to pay attention to Arizona State. Now, I don't want everybody to get so excited because it's week 1, but I would be hard-pressed to find any person in the country that pays attention to college football that thought that we would see this game end up this way. That's all I'm saying. 48-7. I don't think there's a whole lot of people that thought. Now, a lot of people thought Arizona State would win. Okay. But did people think that they were going to blow them out like this? I don't think you could find anybody out there that would say that. Arizona State, I mean, look, they play good football. They just play good football. And maybe they've got something brewing here. Good for them. And like we always say, man, there's always a team that you don't think is going to be good that in the conference and they become good. And then there's always that team that comes out like a house of fire, surprises people early, Colorado last year, and then fizzles once conference games start. So we'll see exactly what happens with Arizona State. But you know what we can say? First game of the year, a blowout victory, good for them. And then lastly, but not least, I'm sorry, people, but the fraud of the week, Lord have mercy, Texas Tech. Now, Texas Tech won the football game. Yes, they did. 52-51 over Abilene Christian. Look, Texas Tech, you win fraud of the week, and there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You needed a 2-point conversion to go awry. The quarterback just lost his patience. There was a guy running free in the end zone. Quarterback lost his patience and tried to run the ball. If he'd have just stayed in the pocket a little longer and seen him, you lose the football game. It's just that simple. And I don't want to hear Abilene Christian's a good team. I don't want to hear, oh, it's the first game jitters. I don't want to hear that when it comes to this. First game jitters are real. Needing overtime to beat Abilene Christian and giving up 51 points is something different. I'm sorry. You can't get me with the first game jitters. I'm not buying that. Again, like I said, I know it's a real thing, but that means, okay, maybe you win the game 48-28, something like that. First game jitters, didn't play great, 48-28. You give up 51? I'm sorry. That's not first game jitters. You know, maybe you're just not that good. We don't have a whole lot of football to be able to see. And also, you can say, well, Texas Tech didn't show a lot. Well, you almost didn't show so much into a loss. So maybe you should have opened up the playbook a little bit on both sides so you could actually go win a football game a little bit more convincingly, give your team a little bit of confidence. Because while they won, yeah, does anybody in the Texas Tech locker room feel good about it? I'm guessing not. You know, a win is a win. Don't get me wrong. But do you think, first of all, the coaches are loving it because they can literally turn on this tape and they probably got 100 million mistakes that they can show their team. This is why we're not a very good football team right now. This is what you got to get better. But I'm sorry. I like Texas Tech. I want Texas Tech to do well. Just like I want all Big 12 teams to do well. Some will, some won't. Texas Tech didn't. If there was anybody other than West Virginia getting smacked around, other than that, I would say this one is probably, is it the worst of the week? Now, Houston, I think everybody thinks is going to be bad. I think it was only me that didn't think they were going to be horrendous. And even then, I told you guys, it wasn't that I didn't think they were going to be horrendous. I was just biased. Well, I'm no longer biased. They're terrible. But other than West Virginia getting smacked around, this is the worst game of the weekend by anybody that we think is going to be pretty good. And people pretty much think Texas Tech is going to be pretty good. But I'm sorry, people. Fraud of the week, Texas Tech is just the way that it is. So, look, Big 12 recap. We kicked off football. We saw what we saw. It is what it is. We'll have our Big 12 rankings that come out, our power rankings that come out tomorrow. But the main thing is the season has started. It's initiated. Now, what do we do in week 2? I mean, there's going to be some more games. We're going to see some powder puff games in week 2, but we're also going to see a little bit more competitive games in week 2. And that's what that's what we're looking for, people. We want to see a little bit more competitive football. We'll start getting into that next week, or in week 2, I should say, and find out exactly what's going on. Look, we'll have our recap show. We had our recap show today, our power rankings. Wednesday, we're going to come out, finding out exactly. We'll interview a couple of teams, put those out there. Yeah, good first week for Big 12 insiders. Good first week for the Big 12. Football is back, people. I love it. Thank you, guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.